Good morning. Thank you for joining me. Journey of Faith. My name is Pam, and hopefully you're all having a blessed day. I've got my dog in here with me, so I do apologize. Um, so if you see the little mutt running around, it's one of my mini babies. I wanted to start today off with a Bible verse, and this one, when I read it, it really hit home for me, and I'm sure it will for many of you as well. This is from Matthew 6:25 through 34. Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what will you eat or what will you drink, nor about your body, what will you put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap, nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? And why are you anxious about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Now that definitely tells us, no matter what we're facing, especially if it comes to finances, put it in God's hand, because one way or the other, he's going to see us through it. We just need to have faith that he'll do it. And no matter what, we've got the holidays coming up, and I can't help sometimes but worry, am I going to be able to get through this? Am I going to be able to get through this? And as soon as you think you're through one, then another obstacle comes up. It's like, that's great. That's just what I needed. No, but what I needed was when I saw this verse today, because that again brought me back home, and it told me, turn my problems back over to God. He will see me through this. And he always does. The other thing is, I had talked a little about the war in Ukraine and Russia. And honestly, I really don't feel comfortable talking about when people are making threats, other countries or whatever, are making threats of nuclear warfare. I want to give everyone faith that things will get better. And that's certainly, even when I was reporting on those and giving you those stories. So I'm going to do my best to give you information and try and put a positive spin on things. I'm also sure that you all heard about Speaker of the House husband, Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi. Their home was invaded, and he was severely beaten with a hammer. And it's being reported by a number of networks that he is undergoing brain surgery. All I can do is hope and pray for the best for him and his entire family. And if anything comes of that, maybe it will be the fact that maybe they'll start cracking down a little more on violent criminals. Because for someone to invade your home and to come and do such a thing to anyone, that's completely uncalled for. So maybe we can start having some tighter restrictions. But today, I wanted to share with you a story that happened to me. This happened a number of years ago. And it really was one of the first steps in my journey of faith. I was actually pregnant with my youngest son, and I thought I had a little bit more than a month to go. Never been told otherwise. Thought I was about 8 months pregnant. Well, we ended up getting into a small fender bender in the car, and I started having mild contractions. So we're taken to the hospital, to the emergency room, and the next thing I know, there's probably 5 or 6 doctors standing around my bed. And when I saw that many doctors, I knew something was wrong. And to see that many, that scared me in itself. And they told me that my baby, there was a major defect with his heart. And that if he was born, he would probably be born stillborn, or with probably brain damage. I didn't know how to deal, because I was like, I have been going to a gynecologist. I have been doing all my prenatal work. How could this just come about? I know if it was major heart damage, it didn't just happen during a small fender bender. And we was told that, because it was right after Christmas at that time, that if I made it through the holidays, and after the new year, I needed to go to Fresno Children's Hospital to have him. And if not, to go to the county hospital in Bakersfield, the town near us. So lo and behold, New Year's Eve night, I go into labor. Now, that is not necessarily a time that you want to go into labor, into a county hospital. But the county hospital there had one of the best neonatal intensive care units in the county where we're at. And so we go in, and he's born, and he was the most beautiful baby I'd ever seen in my life. Absolutely gorgeous. A little over 8 pounds. But he's placed in the neonatal intensive care unit because of his heart. And still you think, how could anything be wrong with this baby? And you're seeing him next to all these teeny, preemie babies. Well, when it hit me is when I had to go home and leave him there, because they wanted him kept under observation. They really didn't think he was going to make it. Now, the first year or so of his life, he was constantly in and out of the hospital for congenital heart failure. What it was with him, he had an extremely low heart rate. He had a blockage inside of his heart. And his heart would not pump fast enough to keep the fluids out of his lungs. So he'd get pneumonia, which would cause him to go into congestive heart failure. And so he'd be, like I say, in and out of the hospital. Until, I think it was right after he turned 2. I had gone to pick up my daughter from school and left him with his grandmother. And I came back, and I remember it was on a Friday, and because we live so far away from Bakersfield, our nearest big town, he was telling me that his fingers were tingly. And I thought, just because it's a Friday, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take him in to the hospital just to have him check out. Because if I can't get a hold of his cardiologist or anybody on the weekend, I'd rather do it today just to have him checked out. So I drive the 30 plus miles into the hospital. He's still kind of talking to me, sitting in his car seat. And everything seemed to be okay. And at first I thought I was being overcautious. Well, I'm known to be overcautious. And that's all right. I take him in there, and as soon as the doctors got with him, he started throwing up, and his whole chest just kind of like almost collapsed. And they asked me to leave the room. And I was in the waiting room. Then you had no cell phones, nothing, so I had to call my in-laws and his father, tell him what was going on. And over the intercom, I kept hearing them paging his cardiologist to the emergency room. Every time I would hear them page his cardiologist, I would think, if they're paging him, he's not with my baby. What's going on with my baby? And no one could give me any answers. Someone finally came out and told me that they was going to airlift him to UCLA Medical Center and that he was going to be transported there. My in-laws and my husband came, and at that point he had just left to be flown to UCLA. And so we all head and drive to LA to be with him. Excuse me. Time we get there, he is in pretty much major heart failure. Not only that, he's in a coma. And they were telling me that and he's 2 years old, that he needed to have a pacemaker, but at this particular time, his condition was too grave for them to try and do surgery. Excuse me, I got a tickle in my throat. And so we sat there, I can't even remember for how long, and there didn't seem to be much improvement with him. And I think it was like after a week, they were finally able to do the surgery and give him a pacemaker. And he would still, it was almost like he was trying to come out of his coma, because because this bed that they had him in, it wasn't like a baby bed. It was almost like a metal crib, and the sides were so high. It was almost to me like a cage. And I remember that they had his ankles and his wrists tied to the side of the bed. And to me, it was like he would try to wake up and he would get scared because he was so restrained that he would jerk. And his body would flex. Well, everyone in there kept saying that he was having seizures as well. To me, I'm not a doctor and I don't claim to be a doctor. That's all I'm saying, that it looked like what was taking place to me is that he was waking up somewhat, trying to come out, and he would get scared because he was so restrained. Then we learned that because in Bakersfield, or before the surgery, he had actually had a stroke. And they said that he was blind, not due to a problem with his eyes, but due to the brain damage from the stroke. He couldn't even suck on a bottle. And they kept telling me that more than likely the odds were that he would never live to see his 18th birthday. And if he did, he would probably have to have a heart transplant, because apparently where this heart blockage was, I couldn't just slice the heart open and repair it. Well, I was devastated because, of course, this is my baby. I thought, all I kept thinking is, wait, God had me drive all the way from where we live. He was fine until we got to the hospital to where somebody was there that could help him. I was like, no, God wouldn't take him away. He just couldn't do that. So I kind of quit listening to the doctors, and I went to the chapel there at UCLA Medical Center. And I prayed like I'd never prayed before. And all of a sudden, I can't explain it to you, I felt the most enormous sense of it's going to be okay, peace. But that I had to have faith that it was going to be okay. That I had to believe that it was going to be okay. I'm like, okay, if that's what it takes, you got it. You got it. I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt. And if the doctors would come to me with things of saying, hey, there's no hope, I would kind of walk away. And I started telling them, no, he's going to be all right. He's going to pull through this. Doctors were telling my husband that I was in a state of denial and that the odds of him recovering from this were like exceptionally low. Exceptionally low. And I thought, well, maybe so. Well, he finally, I don't know how long it was, he finally got out of the ICU unit and put in a regular room. And he still wasn't seeing, but he was out of the coma. And I just knew. It's like, you can't talk to me. You can't tell me that this is not going to get better. Because I knew in order for my child to get better, I was told I had to have faith that it would. The only time that I got concerned was when they said that he was well enough and we could take him home. He couldn't crawl. He couldn't walk. He couldn't really do anything. Like I say, he still couldn't even suck on a bottle. And I learned that what I would do is if he wanted to drink something, I'd kind of suck it up with a straw, let it drip in his mouth until he kind of began to learn to suck again. So we took him home, and like I say, at first that was really frightening, and that little voice came back over me. I know who that voice was, stating I had to have faith. I knew I had to have faith. It wasn't an easy road, but in January, that little baby will turn 41 years old. Yeah, he's still got some difficulties, mainly with his fine motor skills. He can't write appropriately. But you know what? There's doctors that don't have the best penmanship in the world. And I thought, I'll accept that. That taught me, no matter what you're being told, no matter what you're being dealt, you can overcome. Not you, excuse me. Jesus Christ can overcome anything. And with the faith in him, you can definitely overcome. Through prayer, anything is possible with Jesus Christ. And that's all I'm asking you, is have faith. Things will get better. Things are not hopeless. So I'm going to do my best to try and give you positive information each time I come on here. I can't promise I won't be telling you anything bad, but I'm going to do my best to try and send you positive information. But for now, have a blessed day, and bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.